welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World. I'm Lee Anderson, the Reform UK Member of Parliament for Ashfield. And joining me tonight, we've got Benjamin Butterworth. He's our left in the corner and first time on the show. And the very lovely Chloe Dobbs, political commentator. She's back for about the fifth or sixth time. But first, guys, before we get stuck into it, we'll have a little look at this video of Dawn Butler, the MP for Brent Eastwood. Ben, just have a quick look at this.
You wanted to see me broken, head bowed and tears in my eyes. More fool you, you didn't realise that my strength is powered by your lies. You are the wrong one, the violent one, the weird one, whereas I am the chosen one.
So, Chloe, we're seeing words like wrong, violent and weird. Who was she talking to?
I mean, we can't know for certain, but it seems to me like she's talking to white people.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, this is just, it's a new kind of racism. She's made up a racism that doesn't really exist in the UK. I'm sure there are a few racist people in the UK, but we are lucky to live in one of the least racist, if not the least racist country in the world. And they've made up this issue and act like us white people are all oppressors. And it's just a new kind of racism, if you ask me.
Benjamin, surely there's no room in politics for this sort of divisive dog whistle politics. Are you going to call this out?
Well, and yet you're an MP, so clearly there is. I think I found that really emotional, what Dawn was saying, because the point she's making is basically irony. She's pointing out that there are these hideous, lazy, racist tropes that people look at, particularly black people of African origin, and they think they are somehow unsophisticated or incapable, violent. And what she's doing in that video is putting that back. She's making the point of just how unjust and unfair that is, because of course you can't judge a people like that, but that's what many black people in this country still feel like they're on the receiving end of.
I don't know what world you're living in, Benjamin. Yeah. Surely you can come back on this one, Chloe. I don't know what world Benjamin's living in on this. I don't see this.
I can say, as a white person, that I have never in my life looked at a black person or any other person of colour and thought that is an unsophisticated, violent person just because of the colour of their skin, which is what Benjamin seems to be suggesting that white people do. And, I'm sure there are a few people in this country that are genuine racists. That's going to be the case in every single country.
Of all colours?
Of all colours, yes, absolutely. There will be a few people. But England is one of the least racist countries in the world. And if you are a person of colour, this is one of the best places that you could grow up and live. And these people should be saying how glad they are to live in a country where they experience far less racism than in other countries that they could live in. And I think that they've just created a problem that doesn't exist. It's this whole victimhood mentality. And we saw Dawn Butler, when she came into Parliament after the general election, doing a selfie with all the other MPs of colour, saying, let's celebrate the melanin. David Lammy also banging on about the colour of his skin after the general election. It's like, why don't you say, I got to this position on merit? Yeah. I got here because I worked hard, rather than saying that it's the colour of your skin that makes you credited for that position. I just think it's absolutely bonkers.
To be fair, it is divisive, this is. I mean, why are people in this day and age still banging on about their skin colour when the UK is actually probably the most tolerant country in the world, as Chloe says?
Well, I mean, you call it the least racist country. The fact is there are still people from ethnic minorities. You'd struggle to find anybody in an ethnic minority in Britain who didn't say they had been on the receiving end of something abusive or belittling in their life. They would all say that, including people
Benjamin,
who are cabinet
everybody
ministers.
in the country has come across abusive,
language.
Everybody.
Right, but
in the workplace, when you're out socialising, we all get it. But we don't keep banging on and on about it.
But the difference is that, if that happens to you, maybe it's because of your personality or your politics. But this is happening because of something these people can't change, right? And it's happening not because of the content of their character, but because of the way they're built. And they will tell you that over and over again. Dawn Butler, for example, was driving a car with a friend who was also black, and the car was registered, the number plate in Yorkshire, and she got pulled over by the police because it was a rather nice car. Now, if that's not some racism, then I don't know what is, and that's what she said, and a lot of people agreed with her. And frankly, I think you should probably listen to black people or Asian people rather than a group of white people saying they don't have any issues.
I do listen to black people, Benjamin, Chloe. I do listen to Asian people, my friends, and they would call this nonsense out as well.
I think the vast majority would. I think that we're living in an era where many people, especially people in Gen Z, they are creating problems that don't exist. But it is a small minority of people shouting very loud, and the vast majority of them would say that these problems do not exist. We are one of the luckiest generations to ever live. We're so lucky to be alive now. We've got so many opportunities, and we've been lucky to be born in one of the best countries in the world. We could be born in some slum in a third world country.
That's true. That's true.
You know, if you think of all the countries in the world, you know, the chances of being born in Britain, it's so slim. We're so lucky to be here, and we should feel grateful.
And we're so racist, guys, that people will risk their lives to get here on small boats. But we'll just put that one to bed for the moment. Labour Party, I know you're a Labour supporter, Benjamin, but is the honeymoon period well and truly over? We've seen scandal after scandal, donations, we've seen the front bench taking thousands and thousands of pounds in gifts, like Taylor Swift tickets, football tickets. Is the honeymoon period over?
Well, I don't think there was a honeymoon period.
I
think they knew that before the election. They've made some stupid mistakes. I don't think they've dealt with what's gone on with gifts and donations very well. But the fact is the country was in such a state that there was never going to be any easy stuff to do. This isn't Tony Blair. But the idea, I think, that they have done something wrong by taking some of these donations, I think is totally unfair. You know full well, someone that's been an MP for a couple of years now, that it is not unusual that you go and meet people, maybe people relevant to your constituency or to the sector you represent at cabinet or shadow cabinet. What's the problem with taking those tickets?
Well, I mean, I made a pledge when I got elected, Chloe. If I ever got offered free tickets, I've been offered a lot. I think I've accepted 2 or 3, I think. I'm not sure. I have to check my register. But I made a pledge that if I went, I'd take a constituent with me. And I have done. That's what I've done. I mean, the first time was a Nottingham Forest ticket, which I have a season ticket for anyway, so I don't need a free ticket at Forest. But I happened to take a child who's been a carer for her brother. It was like a reward. Wanted to meet her MP, wanted to go to a Forest match. I think if some of the Labour front bench had took their constituents instead of their own family to these sporting events, then it wouldn't have been so bad.
Look, I think the real problem here is the hypocrisy of it, right? Benjamin has pointed out, and so many other Labour politicians and commentators supporting them have pointed out, oh, the Tories were all at it, loads of other MPs are at it. And it's like, OK, but these are the people who, before they got into power, constantly called out the Tories for their Tory sleaze, accepting donations. We've had loads of videos resurface in recent weeks of Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner and others saying that they will promise, Keir Starmer said, a total crackdown on cronyism, no more revolving doors, Keir Starmer said, between government and the companies and organisations that they regulate. He said it with so much passion, and it's not just this, it's the hypocrisy on so many other things like tuition fees. I saw a video of Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner as well saying how passionate they are about scrapping tuition fees. Then they get into power. What are they going to do?
That's just nonsense.
Raise them. And I actually...
let Benjamin come back, Claire.
That's just not because they didn't make any such pledge in the manifesto. In fact, Keir Starmer said that tuition fees would probably have to go up before the election. So, you know, if you go back 10 years, you might find other things. But when it comes to this idea of cronyism, there is no cronyism in the Labour Party. There is no evidence that Lord...
There's no cronyism?
There's no evidence.
Do you know what Sue Gray's son does for a living?
Yeah, I've known Sue Gray's son a long time.
He's a Member of Parliament.
And let me
parachuted into a safe Labour seat.
Do you know what? That's such an unpleasant thing to say, Lee, because let me tell you, Liam Conlon, the Sue Gray's son, is not just Sue Gray's son. He's an Oxford graduate that was an advisor to Jim Murphy, to Tessa Jowell, and he's been running an affiliate to the Labour Party for many, many years. He got there on his own credit, just because his mum came along later. So
Lord Ali, he funded the campaign of Sue Gray's son and one other MP. It's not like he was funding a ton of different campaigns. It was 2 campaigns specifically.
Sorry, just to clarify.
And then, sure enough, he gives this money, and then Sue Gray herself is the one who decides to give Lord Ali a pass for Downing Street. That looks very, very dodgy.
And she got a pay rise as well.
And she's got a huge pay rise.
She's got a pay cut.
And also, you know, there's this question of, is it cronyism if the donations being given are not genuinely affecting policy? Wes Streeting, for example, I was actually very impressed when he started coming out saying, actually, we need to reform our health service, we need to think about different models. And I was like, that's great. And then I find out that he's been given about 170 grand from people with links to private health companies.
Wow.
And then I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's a reason why Wes Streeting is so keen to reform the NHS. And now we're hearing about donations with companies that are going to benefit from net zero and whatnot. And I'm thinking, are they pursuing the policies they're pursuing because of the donations? And then with the football box, we know now hearing that the football regulators, they don't want the government to come down hard on them. Maybe that's why he's being gifted this big fancy box for the football games. It's all very fishy, and it really just it stinks of cronyism.
Total nonsense. And the idea of someone with money who's in the Lords funding candidates is completely normal because, Lee Anderson, you took money from a Tory peer, Michael Hints, to fund your campaign. So I don't know how you can claim that there's something wrong with Labour politicians doing it.
Look, we all take donations, Ben. We need that for our campaign.
Exactly.
The difference is, when I took a donation, it was to buy leaflets for delivery, for postage and stuff like that. I didn't accept Taylor Swift tickets. I didn't accept a £20,000 mansion for my son to revise his exams. I didn't accept a holiday in Ibiza. This is, you've dug yourself a hole here.
No, I haven't.
But dug yourself a massive hole.
He didn't accept a mansion.
There is no justification for some of these donations. They've got the snouts in the trough.
No,
and
they haven't.
You know they have. Look, we're going to have to cut it off there. It's been a good debate between Benjamin. I don't think Benjamin actually believes half that he says, but it's been good entertainment. And Chloe was absolutely brilliant, as usual.